Hey guys, so today I actually wanted to make a video that's long overdue. It's a video that dives further into creating stylized characters and how you create these stylized characters. What are the body proportions? What are the facial proportions that you create? And I'm gonna be doing a little bit more on my style so that I can speak to it, so that I can show you guys how I create my own characters. But I definitely believe that in watching this video, you're going to be able to create in your own recipe. Also, this is going to be super cool because it's also made out of a design challenge. Actually, Lucas from his channel, Lucas is another fellow illustrator, content creator here on YouTube. Definitely worth it checking out his Instagram, YouTube channel. Lucas has some really helpful tutorials, especially if you want to learn a little bit more about light and shadows, if you want to learn about other applications differently than Procreate, for your iPad and for your computer as well as like his Instagram page has some really nice references. So definitely go check his stuff out. And he also recorded a special message for this challenge. So I just want to play you guys this message so we know what theme that we have to work on. So let me just get my phone over here. This is his message.
Hey, what's up, Ghost? Lucas here. I have a challenge for you, man. I want you to create a character illustration with the theme The First Snow. I don't want to limit you, so you can do whatever you want as long as it has a character and somehow relates to the theme. Alright, so good luck with the challenge and cannot wait to see the result.
Alright, Lucas, thank you so much for the video, and now all that I have to say is challenge accepted. Alright, so step one is before you do anything, before you touch on pen and paper or even start sketching on your iPad, it's important to do your research. In this case right here, I just jumped into a few themes that I wanted to bring together for this illustration. So because I knew that this has to be a character piece and it's under the theme The First Snow and a few of the landscapes, the beautiful landscapes during the first snow, so I decided to go with the Sasquatch and also researched a few images of landscape, as well as giving a little bit of a character to this character. I went and I researched some Hawaiian shirts in order to give like a storytelling component that this character enjoys both seasons, the warmer seasons as well as the colder seasons. So I put this all together and I used VizRef, which is a great companion app to actually have side by side to your iPad to put this all into a mood board. So moving on to step number 2, drawing the head. So in theory, this is kind of how I build a stylized character's head, both in front view and as a cross section. We're gonna start with the front view first. So just draw a circle at the center of your canvas. It doesn't need to be a super big circle, but just enough to give you the width of the head. And next, we're just gonna duplicate that circle and we're gonna bring that down. And that is basically going to be the height of the whole head. Now, what I like to also do is to draw two vertical lines at the edges of these circles, kind of connecting each other. And now I have the shape, the pill shape that I like to create for my stylized characters. And as you can see, I can move the second circle with those lines that I just created on the same layer. I can move that up and down and decide on what kind of a height of a head do I want to make. Do I want to make a super long head, or do I want to make it shorter and perhaps a little bit more on the funnier side as well? So once we have that shape locked in, you can draw some guidelines. So what I usually do, I draw a vertical line, just kind of dividing the face with a symmetry. And the next one is going to be a horizontal line. And I usually do that at the center of the first or the top circle. And that line, that horizontal line, is going to be for the top of the eyes. So the eyes never go above that line. So then you can just start drawing the eyes. You can draw a nose if you want to at the center of the face using the vertical line. In this case right here, I'm going to draw in my style, which is kind of like a pyramid shape, where you can see, and I can use the angle, the base of the pyramid. I can reveal the base of the pyramid or hide the base of the pyramid depending on the angle of the face. Next up, you can use the same horizontal line, which is given for the top of the eyes. You're going to use that line for the height or the top of the ears. And you can draw those ears in any shape that you want to, meaning it can be an oval shape or it can be more of a perfect circle. I kind of went ahead with the perfect circle, but just brought it in inside the face on each side and deleted a little bit of the edge or the side of that perfect circle, just so that it looks more like an ear and it's just not like a hanging piece on the side of the head. And finally, there are many ways to draw lips. When it comes to the lips, I just went with a very simple line. Now the cross section is something that is also going to help you a lot when it comes to building different angles and making new illustrations with the same character. So all that you have to do now is to draw some parallel lines. First, of course, drag your illustration, the front face character that you just created, drag it to the left side of your canvas, and now draw some lines, some parallel lines, and extend that to the right side of the canvas. And now you pretty much have all of the guidelines to recreate the same character as a side or profile view. One last note here, guys, is that for the final illustration, I actually did go with a 3/4 angle of that same character. So the only difference here from the 3/4 is that I build the shape, the pill shape, just as I was going to build it for the front face character, but then I just add a curve, an arc, which kind of guides the direction of the face or the tilting of the face as your new guide, as your new center. Step number 3 is building the body. So now that we have the face, let's talk about the body proportions for stylized illustrations. One thing that I love to do is to actually first off download a model sheet for a realistic human character. Next, we're just going to import that model sheet into Procreate, set it to the left side of the canvas, and now we're gonna draw on a new layer. We're gonna draw all of the joints of that character, and we're going to keep all of these circles into one layer. Now make a copy of that layer, drag it to the right side of the canvas. We can also draw some parallel lines from left to right in order to help you visualize what we're going to do next, which is basically to reposition these joints on the right side based on our stylized character. So for example, if you really want longer arms, we're just gonna take the wrists joints and move those down. And then for example, as well, if you wanted to have a shorter torso, you just move the joints on the hips, we're gonna move them up. And then all we have to do is just draw the limbs and the proportions that we want to with the art style that we want to as well within those new markers. So it makes things rather easy, and you're actually starting from something that has some sort of a foundation in the realistic world, where you're making it stylized by tweaking these joints. Step number 4 is building a library. So basically what we've done with the face and now with the body, those are also parts of the library. Those are also parts of this step. But really what we need to keep doing here is to build a library of hands, build a library of hairstyles perhaps, so that you can use the same character and create variations of that character by changing hairstyles. So finally, the last step is to bring it all together. So for example, just looking at the speed paint of this illustration, I first just was very loosely sketching a few poses. I actually started with a stand-up version of the Yeti or the Sasquatch, and I had him kind of like in a menacing pose but with a smiley face, and I tried a couple of these, and then finally I think I tried one that was almost like looking like a bear. And with that one, I was actually more testing the number of fingers and toes that I wanted for the character, but in everything it was just looking a little bit almost like he was just standing there. So what I decided for my next trial is that he was really low on the ground, and I actually, in this one, I started to really like the design of the toes with these round shapes and the design of the feet, but something was just looking perhaps too, it was just not quite there. So really the best tip here for this part is that it's really useful to play around without really committing too strongly with anything here, but just loosely sketching a few ideas and poses to see which one actually relates to you better, or which one actually feels better for the illustration. So I decided to start from scratch. I made a new version, and he's now sitting down, kind of welcoming the first snow. So in this version right here, I think the very first thing that I did was to play around with the feet, because once again, being the Bigfoot or the Sasquatch, I knew that I was making feet that were a little bit tiny. So right there, I scaled up the feet. Then I knew that I wanted somewhat bigger hands, but I found the middle ground between like very, very big hands and tiny hands. Then I did the same with the head. First, I started with a smaller head for this character because I wanted to give more attention to the size of the body. But once again, because I wanted to be very recognizable and easy to read, that it was like a stylized Sasquatch, I just went with a medium-sized head, and I think it kind of related really well with the rest of this, or the proportion of the limbs. And finally, as I was just mentioning, I think just drawing this character without any props was just going to feel a little bit simple. So I ended up adding a Hawaiian shirt, with which I think it's a fun touch to this piece. And I think also tells a little bit of a story to this character, meaning that he doesn't just enjoy the colder seasons, but also the warmer ones. So after the sketch was done, the next step was finalizing in Procreate. Finalizing as a concept art. So in my style, it's just creating a clean outline version of the illustration, then moving on to color. And with color, I'm going to also link a video here on the top right section of this video, which talks about how to create a minimal color palette using a couple hues, but then creating different tones of the same hue in order to create a 5 to 6 color palette, which doesn't have a lot of color variations, and it's just playing with lighter and darker tones. That can really help your illustrations, especially if you think that adding colors can be somewhat tricky to your art. And the final step in this illustration process here was to add a little bit of shading. So the way that I do it, I don't go too crazy with the shading. I don't create like multiple shadow layers or multiple highlight layers, but rather just something that gives a little bit of depth and just enough depth that you can read the character more with volume. So overall, I was pretty happy with the result, and I just couldn't wait to send this to Lucas to see where he could take this on. And I think now I'm just super excited to pass this on to Lucas, see what he can do and how he can take this illustration to the next level with his own art style. I did have a little peek on what this illustration turned out, and I'm super excited for you guys to watch. Now, if you want to check that out, the link will be in the description of this video for you guys to click and check on Lucas' video. Also, of course, if you want to check more on Lucas's work, it's also going to be in the description box of this video. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I hope it was informative, and I will make or continue to make videos about how to draw stylized characters. Perhaps we can go even deeper into the theme. It's just that this one was really fun because it had a bit of a design challenge or a collab that I'm doing here for the first time on my channel. So I think this was a little bit of both. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, a like would be super appreciated, as well as make sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell notification icon so you don't miss any of these tips and tricks, reviews, and speed paint videos, and that is always to make you a better digital illustrator. Now on the right side of the screen, there's always also more content for you guys to check it out. One is my latest upload, and the other one is a video that YouTube is recommending you to check it out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Ciao.